Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Tang from Hughes, and today I have the privilege of speaking with Ajith Edakandi. He's director of our product management. Ajith, can you tell us a little bit about what executives should understand and know about cybersecurity?
Yes, thank you, Tim, for the opportunity to talk to everyone here. As Tim said, I'm Ajith Edakandi. I'm responsible for the product management team. Have been in the cybersecurity business for quite some time, and I've seen it evolve over time. Back in the days, people used to spend very little time on cybersecurity, which is really not the case anymore. I don't have to preach to the choir here, but in terms of the question you asked, what are the risks people are or the executives need to know about is the fact that one of the critical things which people need to be aware of is the financial impact, right? So that comes first and foremost. So you need to be aware of what you need in terms of a cybersecurity posture to prevent all of that from happening. And as you can see in the market, a lot of people are aware of what is happening in the space. So people are taking the necessary steps. But one of the other things also people kind of overlook is the human factor, right? People are only as strong as the weakest link, and the weakest link is actually your employee. So your processes have to be around the three main pillars, which is people, processes, and technologies. Technologies, the board can invest in. The processes, the board can invest in. But what we have seen is the people are not being invested in too much. So the people in terms of training and all of that. So I would say if the board can focus a little bit more on the people also in terms of that risk factor, because your risk is mostly through your employees and the people who actually work on it. Another thing, other so that the financial impact is obviously there, then comes the reputation process as well, right? So your company's reputation is actually being deteriorated if there is a compromise within your system. So those are one of the two main things people need to be aware of. And the third thing, like I said, the overlooked piece is the people, process, and technology, the training itself of the people.
Cybersecurity is kind of a black box for many people. Can you maybe take the lid off a little bit and help us understand what's the framework underneath? How do I think intelligently or understand, help us organize our thinking about cybersecurity?
Right. So I can go back to the basic standards, right, which is explained by the NIST framework, which is the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So those are the three main pillars or the framework which any cybersecurity, any organization can put their processes around. So the CIA triad is clearly laid out in the NIST framework in terms of how you need to identify your critical assets, how you need to be confidential in terms of what your technologies you're deploying needs to be, the integrity of all your the accesses within your systems, and obviously availability, right? So if you are compromised, you have the necessary availability to backtrack and bring it up so that when you're down for a certain time, your business continuity or your disaster recovery, which is actually your availability, allows you to be up and running in near real time. So even if you get affected by an indication of compromise, or if you're threatened by a threat actor, you have the ability to not pay any kind of the ransom because you're already taken the necessary steps around availability. So I would say those the three main standards around the CIA, and those are clearly laid out in the NIST websites.
Excellent, excellent. When you work with enterprise, what are some of the common mistakes that you see in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of developing a comprehensive posture?
Right. One of the key things which I've always noticed is before, let me take it pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, right? So pre-pandemic, people were like, okay, I need a basic compliance, right? So as long as I have compliance, I'm good because I can do a check mark. Then suddenly after the pandemic, people started going back home, and then now you need to access all of the different applications. People were in a feeding frenzy. They started deploying multiple security tools. I need this, I need that. But what they were not comprehending is the ability to manage those tools and the people factor, right? How many people do you need to manage those tools? How do those tools play together? Or they deployed all these tools, they're getting number of alerts, right? Who is looking at those alerts? It's the same set of people. So people were ignoring those alerts, or there is a time where people were getting inundated with alerts because the tools were not properly tuned. So what we are seeing is those were the common mistakes you're seeing, but now you're seeing more along the lines of, okay, how is that affecting the whole cybersecurity framework? People are taking those and trying to understand, how do I consolidate those tools, right? So people are learning from those mistakes which happened during the pandemic time, and then trying to adjust and understand, okay, for me to attain cybersecurity insurance, it's not easy. During the pandemic, when people started going back home and started working, the trend for the ransomware attacks also started increasing. So people started getting more cybersecurity insurance. Insurance companies were like, no, okay, this is not a business I want to be in, because I cannot keep on paying all these industries the amount of money. So they started putting more stringent rules for cybersecurity insurance. So in that scenario, the companies had to adjust their security posture to meet that insurance needs. Some of the industries were like, nope, I'm willing to take that risk in terms of insurance. I'm not going to take insurance. I'm going to see what happens. While all others started investing in the tools to attain cybersecurity insurance. So you're seeing these different multi modes of insurance and cybersecurity, and how all of those are coming together, all based on the mistakes people were making during the pandemic times. And now it's kind of leveling out and adjusting.
This really is an issue of managing risk. First, understanding your risk, and then being able to manage it and understand how much you're taking. You mentioned ransomware. Could you dig a little deeper into that and kind of provide some guidance? There's been so much news headlines about this attack, that attack. How should enterprise executives be thinking about ransomware?
So ransomware, again, like I said, the two main things which you need to be prepared for ransomware, it's a matter of not if but when, right? You are going to get compromised, and it's all depends on three main things, I would say. One is, like I mentioned before, it is the business continuity or disaster recovery. You need to consistently back up your critical assets. It's not a matter of, okay, I will wait for a day or so to get a backup if it's part of your critical infrastructure. So you should have the necessary BCDR plans where you have multiple methods of backup so you can quickly get up and running. That means you are not at the whim and fancy of the ransomware attacker. You don't have to pay those. The second thing I would say is a quick and insurance response plan. It's one thing to have an incident response plan laid out in paper. That doesn't get you anywhere. You have to practice that every quarter. That means that helps you define the different teams and responsibilities. One of the key things people forget to understand is containment after the fact. So you get ransomware. How do you contain that ransomware from spreading to other places? Your incident response plan helps you in that. So when you keep on practicing that incident response plan, it maybe just takes 2 hours every quarter for the different teams to just go through a tabletop exercise of planning out what a containment looks like. That will help or will pay more dividends if you actually get attacked. Right. So that is another thing. And the third thing I would say, I'm harping on this again and again, is employee training. Most of the ransomware attack through phishing attacks through employees. So if your employees are properly trained to understand what needs to happen, right? How do you actually see if it is a phishing email versus a legitimate email? Now, with the advent of AI, you're seeing more deep fakes. Like if the CIO or the CFO calling a video message coming to you through WhatsApp, for example, says, hey, can you please send me this access to this because I forgot access? So how does an employee identify this is actually a deep fake or this is a phishing email versus a legitimate email? Is going to pay a lot of dividends in terms of how you protect against ransomware.
Excellent, excellent. In the nature of your role, you get to see a whole flood of different technologies that are coming. Can you speak a little bit to how you're seeing AI change in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of the
Hmm.
tools that we have available to us?
Right. So that's a that's an excellent question, right? It's like the the invention of the nuclear bomb, right? So the nuclear bomb was invented actually for the actual inventors like Oppenheimer and stuff wanted it legitimately for good use, right? But as you know, it was not used for the good use. And then there are the actual benefits of getting nuclear power. I would equate AI very similar to that. AI has its benefits where you can use AI to predict actually the threats which are going to happen. So there is this whole concept of predictive incident response or predictive threat detections. So it constantly is learning and understanding the different dynamics of a network and ability to predict that this is actually going to happen. Then there are these concepts of security co-pilots. So you can actually have security virtual SOCs, as I call it, which can augment an actual SOC analyst. So a lot of the SOC analyst jobs nowadays are doing mundane tasks, right? They are getting inundated with alerts. Then they have to go through those alerts and identify which is legitimate, which is not. And then they have to create reports and send emails. A lot of that of high tasks oriented SOC analysts go through all of this. And what happens is there might be a typical SOC analyst, for example, get 11,000 alerts per day,
Oh,
of which if they rely on a tool which says which is legitimate or not. But nowadays, the threat actors are so good that some of these actual legitimate alerts are not real alerts, but they are undercover and they are actual threats, right? So, and the SOC analysts, since they are getting inundated with alerts, they ignore maybe 25% of the alerts. So, what really happens? So, the AI engines, like a security co-pilot, can actually build in and help the SOC analyst to do a lot of mundane tasks. So you can train the SOC, the virtual SOC, to do a lot of those functions. So those are the benefits currently. Then there are tools like Worm GPT and Threat GPT, which actually can be used by anyone to create worms or malware, right? And then those are open source malwares, which me or you, which I wouldn't advise, can go in and then create malwares and send to organizations. And there are actual legitimate tools like Pen GPT, which is a pen tester GPT. There is Pass GPT, which is a password GPT. Password GPT is actually scores the internet and all the available published passwords. It uses that, and you can actually use that as a threat to break passwords, right? So you can see both elements, right? You can see an advantages set, but if people really want to create havoc, they can use these LLM tools, which are available for free, right, to create threats as well.
wow. In light of those threats then that are coming, how do you see the trends in cybersecurity in terms of the defenses? What are enterprises going to embrace in order to prepare for those threats?
Yeah, I would say, like I said, companies have invested a lot in a lot of tools. So you're going to see more of a consolidation of platform consolidation. So the more like the XDRs or the extended detection response platforms of the world, which integrate every single tool, people are then weeding out tools as well. Like, okay, I invested in this tool. Is it really giving me a benefit? Are these other tools actually providing me those functions? And the second thing is, I would say, context aware patch management or vulnerability management. Gone are the days where a vulnerability management tool will tell you this is a CV or it's a vulnerability. And then you see, okay, this is critical, this is critical, this is critical. But you need to equate that and see, okay, this is critical, but is it actually affecting my critical asset? If this critical vulnerability is not for my critical asset, but it's something else, I can wait for that patch. But if I see a medium criticality for my critical asset, then that takes precedence, even though there is a higher alert. So context awareness is a critical thing where people are gravitating towards rather than regular patch management saying, oh, okay, this is the patch management. I'm going to do what the patch management spits out. Then the third thing is more, I would say, human-centric training, right? The cybersecurity market consistently says that people are missing, right? So augmenting the SOC or retaining the people, right? Which you already have. So you don't need like very like masters or any of those kind of engineers. You can actually train people and get that nurtured talent which you can stay in house, right? So you keep on nurturing the cybersecurity talent within your environment. You give them incentives to stay within the organization, because one of the biggest challenges consistently the market faces is people in the cybersecurity world keep on moving. With how do you prevent that? Because once an asset leaves, then there is another huge training element for them to get accustomed within the environment. So to keep the cybersecurity talent, and that is human centric. So human centric approach to cybersecurity in terms of how do you make sure the SOC analysts are not burned out, as well as how do you nurture the talent, right? So people are invested in that and keep them within that organization. I would say those are some of the trends I'm seeing in the market.
There's some tremendous gems in what you just shared. It's a matter of making sure that the tools you have make sense together. It's a matter of making sure you're making full use of your tools
Hmm.
and then using the tools to improve the experience for the cyber analysts so that they don't get burnt out, that they actually want to do the job,
Hmm.
and that even to grow their talent and skills as they embrace the job too as
Exactly.
well.
Exactly.
You're describing retention really as the key to a successful cybersecurity posture.
That's exactly right.
Ajith, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. Everyone, I've been speaking with Ajith Edakandi. He's Director of Product Management from Hughes.